Welcome back from that break. Now it's time to talk about some happenings in your community right next to you. And this morning, we are going to be having a very important conversation, and a conversation that you all should be so much interested in, because it's about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Over the last few years, Kweku, we here, in Ghana, as well as the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service as a whole, have been propagating the agenda of STEM and the need for STEM inclusion in our schools, starting even from the very beginnings, the early childhood stages in school. And I think last week or 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to experience a practical forum that was held at the Alisa Hotel, where teachers were taking through trainings, how they could adapt these STEM measures and things to teach and then aid in learning as a whole. And what intrigued me at the training center was the fact that some of the teachers were actually nursery teachers, but they came for the training. And at a moment, I thought, oh, STEM was just for junior high school, senior high school, most importantly, and then going higher, maybe to the university level. But to think that early childhood stage, they are inculcating STEM education into their curricula and making the children love and adapt it was very interesting for me. You have seen the conversations and the video, and I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, I know. I think it's important. You know, we can't overstate it, because I feel like the world is moving very fast, and that we are not necessarily given the opportunity for the world to slow down or stop and wait for us, right? The world is moving, and we have to speed up and catch up, right? And one of the ways of doing this is to broaden our base in terms of how we teach. You know, it's no longer enough to do the traditional way we've done things. You know, so the introduction of STEM and the proper aggressive, training of trainers, for them to be able to disseminate the information and be able to teach properly. And then, of course, you look at the practical things, the building of, practical tools that children can be used to taught, teachers can use to teach the kids is so critical, right? Of course, we know organizations like DEXT Technologies have been doing this for the last couple of years, where, they've been creating, as you have a science set, as you have a math set, they created a science set, and the science set has been categorized into different age groups and different years, depending on what you need, and they build it for you. I think it's so important, right? Because again, you hear, yesterday I was listening to Traffic Avenue and hearing, they were doing like a teacher appreciation conversation, and hearing people say that if it wasn't for this teacher, I would not have understood this course. Today, I'm now doing accounting because even though I was scared of numbers and scared of accounting, one person saw me and said, no, I can show you how you, and I fell in love with accounting, and now I'm an accountant. Those things are so critical. And that's what helps the nation to advance and to move forward in leaps and bounds instead of step by step, in leaps and bounds. It's very important for us to do that,
Very right said. And as I said early on, I like the early childhood inclusion, because when I was on the field for this very program organized by Practical Education Network, even their name says practical education. So when I was on the field, and then they showed us the things they were able to come up with, of course, with the help of the facilitators, to the teachers who are trainers now, I was like, oh, if I was taught a few years back, this is how to study science. This is how
you may have loved science.
This is how practical you can actually do this and arrive at this result or arrive at this conclusion. I'm sure maybe not to say that general arts or any other course is a bad one. Maybe I would have appreciated science more and not have the thought that, science is scary. Science is scary. Science is for Brilla. Science is for these kind of people, or even science is for boys. Because so the inclusion or the inclusivity aspect of it was so interesting for me. And believe you me, I appreciated science more on that day.
Yeah.
I fell in love with science all over again. And if I had the opportunity to go back to school or to do something, I'm sure I wouldn't even think twice about it before accepting or choosing to do a science course. And trust me, these were, to think that they were able to do these practical things with materials you could find around you.
That's what I was going to talk about.
You don't need to break a bank.
Thank you.
To actually do the things.
The things around you.
Yes,
you can
but
use them.
back in the days when we're in school, if you don't have the actual things, like the skeleton to teach the skeletal parts of the body of a human being, you are unable to learn and understand it. But this time around, they were using bottles, canes, pen tops, cardboards, balloons, papers, and all of that. And Kweku, it was very interesting and educative.
I think we should take a look at the conversations that happened when Jifa met with the Practical Education Network.
Such a pleasure to be coming to you from the Mensvik Grand Hotel, where the STEM Research Dissemination meeting is going on right here, being organized by the Practical Education Network in collaboration with Ashase University with support from the Ghana Education Service. STEM education is the backbone of innovation and economic growth in today's world. Hence, it is imperative for us to have these conversations to foster STEM education. Today's theme for the conversation is overcoming digital barriers and hands-on STEM education in Ghana, a rare transitional experience. Let's go inside to take a look at what's going on.
As we move further into the digital age, the fusion of technology and education becomes increasingly vital. However, this transition, especially within the realm of hands-on STEM education, presents both unique challenges and remarkable opportunities. We have already heard the teachers speak from experience, so you understand the power of this thing. So STEM education, that is education in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, has long been recognized as the foundation of innovation and economic development. In Ghana, despite notable progress in promoting STEM, significant gaps remain in our ability to provide the resources and infrastructure necessary for every child, regardless of their location, to access quality education in these fields. The essence of hands-on STEM education lies in the ability to cultivate problem-solving skills, creativity, and innovation. However, the lack of access to resources often impedes this critical learning process, especially in rural and underserved communities where the necessary infrastructure is limited or non-existent.
You happen to be the CEO of Practical Education Network, put in short as PEN. You've put this whole STEM program together with, in collaboration with Ashase University and of course with support from the Ghana Education Service. I would like to ask you, what was it that made you think, oh, let's put this together, maybe Ghana needs this, or the students or the beneficiaries even need this? What was the thought for the whole initiative?
Thank you. So at Penn, we're into STEM education, and we're working with teachers to equip them with the capacity to make education more practical, more hands-on. And we don't think laboratory equipment should be a barrier for schools to actually engage in effective learning. So we take teachers through how they can use locally available items to teach the curriculum in science and math in a more practical way. We've been doing this for years, actually, in partnership with GES, as you mentioned. During COVID times, we were challenged to find ways of still training teachers using online methodologies, which we actually didn't think was possible initially because our program is purely practical. But by God's grace, we managed to make that transition to doing it online. We trained over 200 teachers using Zoom and Google Classroom and WhatsApp to still find ways of making teaching very practical for their students.
lots of conversations have gone on, lots of mind-boggling revelations as well as thought-provoking questions and answers have gone on. And I'm privileged to have with me our very own quiz mistress, Ghana's quiz mistress for that matter, and the person of Professor Elsie Ifa Kaufman. Prof, good day. It's good to have you. I was watching you and listening to all the conversations that were going on. And I mean, you are somebody we all admire on television, but seeing you, it's a different feeling. Is it okay to say I'm starstruck?
Oh, no, you shouldn't be.
Anyway.
It's just me.
Oh. Right, good to have you. Now, let me pick your thoughts briefly on this one. Penn has put this whole STEM program together in collaboration with Ashasi University, of course, as well as the Ghana Education Service. What do you think about this initiative?
I think it's a wonderful initiative. I had to be here because this is a case where they are actually doing interventions, trying to get our young people to understand the science a lot better. And what they have done, which is interesting to me and very exciting for me, is that they have incorporated real research into what the work they are doing. So as they were doing the interventions, they were collecting data, and that is the information that they shared with us here today. That's very good.
Beautiful. For someone who is so much vested in STEM, science, technology, and math, and all of that, I'd like to ask you, how do you think, or how important do you think STEM education is for Ghana's future?
All the research has shown over and over again that if you want to make development your business, right? All the countries that have taken development seriously, they have done it on the foundations of STEM. So it is non-negotiable. We need to pay particular attention to the way in which we educate our young people to understand the concepts in STEM so that they can actually deploy that to solving real life problems. So it's very important, and that's why what we are doing here is also particularly interesting and important, because they are making the subject much more approachable. The subjects are much more approachable because they are using local materials. They are making sure that our learners are doing hands-on activities, not just sitting in class copying notes. So all of this is very important in contributing to our future development as a country.
How do you think this training has impacted you?
Well, it has impacted in me in such a way that it has increased and speed up my personal development and my professional ethics too. And also it gives me an opportunity to master my subject area where I can use local material within my jurisdiction to take my lessons on and make science fun for my learners.
You're a senior high school teacher, so my producer and I were, gossiping about you guys a little when you were on break before we had you. Were like, oh, if during our time, science education or math education was this very practical and hands-on, I'm sure some of us would have been doctors, engineers, and the rest by now. But you guys made the whole program so scary and then cumbersome that we didn't even understand what we're doing. And I see a lot of things going on behind me here, but this caught my attention, this and that on the wall. But let's speak to this. What is this?
This is the respiratory system model. It shows we use it to carry on an activity on how breathing in and breathing out takes place.
Could you just hold it and then take us through it?
Yes, this is the respiratory system. It's a model of the chest to just talk about how we can take in air and air coming out. So if you look at this particular setup, we assume that this is the chest cavity, and then you can see the lungs inside with the alveoli, which we have the long tube outside connected. So once you hold this part, this is supposed to be like a bag when you are breathing in and breathing out. So you have, then you see there is air, the two balloons. So it means that oxygen or air is passing through the respiratory system. So it's just a model.
Right, and this was made, I want us to run briefly through the materials that was put together to make this.
Okay. Yes, with this you can easily get them within our local environment. This is a container. You can get it with a lid. Then you can get a pipe. You can pass, or you can even make your own. If you get one straight pipe, you can connect the two pipe. And this is a balloon. And then this is just a rubber bag. And you tie with a rope or a thread.
So you were taught how to put this together in the classroom so that when you go back to school, you can teach the children. So if somebody is watching us today and the person is still not too sure about studying science or doing anything STEM, what will you tell the person?
Well, I would tell the person not to worry. Science has gone innovative, and with the introduction of so many new innovation in science teaching and learning, STEM, even the new curriculum, you could just have these new materials within you, and you develop your scope and your innermost hidden strengths, and you'd be able to do it.
There's been lots of conversations going on, lots of interactions, lots of practical stuff I have seen for myself. I have witnessed it. We all have. I just want to pick your thoughts briefly. What do you think about this program put together by PEN, of course, with support from the Ghana Education Service and in collaboration with Ashasi University?
Thank you. I'm happy that you are an eyewitness to today's program. It's all about practical science. And this is what we need by engaging our learners to practical science education.
You're a basic school teacher and taking part in STEM education. How do you think that's going to help you to, impact knowledge in the children that you are teaching?
It's helping a lot because from KG, when we started by saying it's a basic school, so it's starting from KG. We are looking at training our young ones right from the start. And so with PEN in the picture, teaching us how to do hands-on science with locally manufactured products. Anything we see around, we can actually use it in science, practical lessons, without incurring so much debt or money, using so much money. It has really gone a long way to help us. It has also demystified science at that level. Children are so much intrigued in doing practical things with ease, without facing any challenges, any problem of buying so many things. And I think it's getting better.
You know what I was just thinking? It looks like some of us have to go back to school and start from KG, because if at KG level they are practicing STEM hands-on, it's very interesting. And a little bit whispered to me that you put this together. When I came to stand here looking at all the things that have been done, I was wondering, what's this? I was able to understand some of them, but this in particular, I didn't know what it was. So what is this?
It's a prosthetic hand. Normally, this is designed for amputated hand, but just to aid their movement in their language, in a form of trying to work on something. What their hand cannot do, at least this aids them. So this is actually for the left hand.
Yes.
So
Put this here.
yeah, here. So let's say there's an amputated hand and you need to help that amputated hand. So this was designed actually by a basic 6 child.
We didn't have this practical way of teaching science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, right? And now there's a new way. How different does this make you feel?
We actually had the hands-on experience or the hands-on teaching, but basically I teach physics, and the schools that I taught, they were science resource center schools. Therefore, I didn't really have any challenge in terms of apparatus. However, what this program did to me, that's the PEN program, is the fact that they made me understand that the apparatus or the teaching learning material that I need to teach, I don't really have to go anywhere for them. They are around us, they're in our environment, but mostly we overlook them. Currently, I don't see a bad student. I rather see myself to be bad. So if I teach you and you don't understand, it means I have not taught you well.
Right.
So it means I've changed my teaching philosophy. How I used to see teaching is different from how I see teaching now, even at the higher level.
Wow, Jiva.
Cool.
Amazing conversations. I mean, it's to think that we can break it down and make it this simple and this easy for kids to not only learn, but to fall in love with learning.
With the course, yes.
You know, I think it's so important. I think it's so important. We'll delve more into the conversations about that. But let's talk to someone who's been involved in the designing of science apparatus and various things to make it easy for learners to learn in the science and technology space. He's Charles Ofori Antepem. He is the co-founder of Dext Technologies. Of course, you know, over the last few years, Dext Technologies have always supported the Literacy Challenge. Well, Charles, good morning. Hello, Charles.
Good morning to you.
Yes, welcome to Breakfast Daily.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, very well, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Right. Now, we were watching this fantastic program that the Practical Education Network had held. And we wanted to just pick your thoughts as somebody who has been in the space where you're creating apparatus for science and so on. Talk to us about the importance of creating easy to use apparatus, easy to make an affordable apparatus for students at different levels.
Thank you very much, and a very good morning to all your viewers. Practical science education is critical. In fact, it goes beyond critical. It's been long established that a development gap is a technology gap, and many have said a development gap is an innovation gap as well. And so this program that the PEN put together. PEN is a good partner of ours as well. In the STEM education space, and so we're very excited to see the work that they are doing. And it can't be overstated the critical importance of training young people so that they can understand the world around them, and they can learn how to manipulate that world to make it more effective, to make it more efficient. You know. For instance, let me try and then situate this into one of the conversations that we are having across the country right now.
Okay.
The issue of galapagos, small-scale mining, legal mining. We talked about water bodies, the importance of water bodies, how to purify water, contaminants in water. All of these things are fundamental science concepts. Now, for students to be able to understand those principles, to be able to know the importance of our water bodies and the need for us to preserve them, all goes under learning science practically.
Wow.
And so, for instance, imagine students have different kinds of water, and then they are doing an experiment to see how they can purify that water to make it safe for drinking. If you have one that is very turbid, one that is very muddy, and you have one that is not as muddy, and then they are doing an experiment to try and then purify both of them, it will be very clear and very visual how polluting the water, making it more muddy, making it more turbid, makes it much more difficult to purify. And these are things that the students are supposed to learn in school. In fact, in class 4, students are supposed to be learning about water and how to purify water and how to prevent water pollution.
Wow. In class 4.
And so we can't overstate the importance of practical science.
Now, one of the things that struck me, and Jifa and I were talking about it earlier, is how they have created even for the early learning stage as well. Is this technology also looking at that level, early learning stage, and how important is introducing this at that level also, to the whole conversation that we're having?
Sure, thank you very much for that question. Now, the best place to actually start, introducing students to practical hands-on science is at the very early stages. In fact, you realize that even for the most young of kids, it's usually encouraged to give them objects to play with because they use their hands a lot to learn. And so it's not overstating to say as early as class 1, class 2, students should be able to have access to, tools that enable them to learn science practically. And that's what we are doing at Deck Technology. Trying to enable standardized tools that can enable students at a very early age to be able to engage with science in a practical way. One of the things that is very important to us is standardization. And so it's really great to be able to find materials that are in the environment and enable students to practically experience the things that they are learning. One of the things that we also believe is important to build on top of that is standardized tools that will enable students very quickly, very easily in the classroom to be able to perform these practical science activities. And that's what we are focused on at DEX, to be able to create what we call the science set, which is essentially just like you have the mathematical set. Imagine every student having a science set that enables them do science practically. And so just like they have their textbooks, essentially students can have a science set that they then can use to perform their practical science activities right in the classroom.
Fantastic.
Now, Charles, so I'm coming to, I want to ask you about how we will try to bridge the gap and, of course, inclusivity. There's this thought or conception that science or having a math knowledge is for those who are, who have a very high level of IQ, or even boys. How do we make this very interesting? More so for one who is not even looking at pursuing science or math in the future, to an extent that when we are having conversations like these, if I didn't even study science, because I have a background or a STEM inclusion knowledge, I'm able to understand the conversations that are going on.
That's a very beautiful question. And science is for everybody. Science is all around us, and science affects every single one of us in so many ways. And so it's critical, it's fundamental that from all walks of life, from the young to the old, to people living with disabilities, everybody must be included in the conversation around STEM education. Because just like you rightly said, being able to understand these concepts, even if you are in the bank or you're a journalist or whoever it is you are, being able to understand some of these fundamental concepts allows you to appreciate our environment, appreciate the resources that we have, and then enables you to be in a position where you can positively contribute whenever we have a discourse, and then be able to appreciate how our world can change and how our actions can affect the world both negatively and then positively. And so it's very important that everybody, everyone, whether your desire is to become a scientist in future or not, to be able to engage with science. And so that's why it's important to us that at a very early age, students are exposed to the tools that will enable them learn science practically, so that they can appreciate how our world works and how our actions can affect the world negatively or positively.
Great. Charles, my next question to you. We have seen countries like China, Japan, and the rest scale up in terms of STEM. And we here in Ghana are now starting with baby steps. Don't you think there's a need for us to scale up, or do you think we are just going at a pace that is okay for us to catch up with them?
No, thank you for that question. And it's unfortunate that we are now getting onto the wagon. However, the good news is that because of organizations like PEN and organizations like Dex Technology, the company that I helped found, we are leapfrogging access to quality science education. So now, take a tool like the science set. Without the school having to build a science lab that will cost several hundreds of thousands of Ghana cedis, they can have access to tools like the science set that will enable them implement practical science instantly. So in fact, as I speak to you, if there's any school, whether it's a government school or it's a private school that wants to implement practical science, they don't need to wait for months before they can build a science lab or wait for years. In a matter of weeks, they can start implementing quality science education. And when I say quality science education, to give you a sense of how much we've leapfrogged, just last month, we sent 1,000 of the science sets that we are making in Ayeduase Kumasi to the United Kingdom.
Wow.
For students in the UK to use them to learn science, because they have seen that the tools that we've created and enable them to implement practical science instantly on the go without having to wait to build a very expensive science lab.
Wow.
And so these tools that we are making here in Ghana are being used even in places like the United Kingdom to teach students about STEM. And so with the right, support and the right commitment, we can implement these tools here, and it can enable us to leapfrog. So we don't need to wait for years. We can bring practical science education, quality practical science education to all students across the country.
Wonderful, wonderful. Charles, thank you so much for joining us. It's been very insightful, and kudos to you for expanding beyond Ghana. This is what we are looking for, to see that other people in other jurisdictions want what we have and what we have created right here. Thank you very much, and kudos to the rest of the team. Greetings to the rest of the team as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, thank you. And that was Charles Antipem Ofori. He is a co-founder of Dex Technology Limited. And of course, as he said, now that I wasn't expecting.
Yes.
That took me by surprise.
Yes, yes.
1,000, just last week, 1,000 pieces of their science
sets, yes, sent over to
sent
the
to
UK.
the UK.
Yes,
because they ordered it and said we need it for our students.
Yes, yes.
Wow. This is what we're talking about.
Exactly.
This is what we're talking about, And for me, the first time I saw the science set, they have, let's say, science 5.1. Now, you see the science set. It's a little cute box. When you open it, every science experiment that you're required to do in class 5, it says 5.1.
Yes.
In class 5, first thing is in there. Then 5.2 has the one for second term.
Yeah.
Then 5.3 has the one for third term.
term.
I mean, they have devised a very ingenious way of doing this, and it's beautiful. I really, really love it.
I love it too, and I feel like these are the kind of things we need now to help Ghana. Because look, when we had the This is Ghana exhibition last 2 weeks, we saw lots of homegrown businesses, and then you and I were like, oh, is this actually made in Ghana? We can actually do these things here. So if companies like Dex Technology are putting this together, and we have people from the United Kingdom ordering.
Yes.
And us sending like the feeling of achievement, the feeling of contributing to economic growth and the nation's quota is beautiful.
I think that these are some of the things that the government should be looking at, and looking at very seriously. To when we say put your money where your mouth is, this is what we're talking about. Investment into local industries that make them giants. Because the giants abroad, they didn't become giants just
overnight,
like that. There was a lot of deliberate government involvement in making sure that they will become giants.
And I agree with you, and just to add up, I feel like government should look at some of these private individuals or private sectors to support them, because most of the times when it's not really a government initiative, they lack funding. They go around seeking.
For years, they struggle for a long time.
But they actually have the ideas. They can solve the problem. These are things that contributes to the nation's growth as a whole. It's not for the individual alone or for their team alone. It's for all of us to use and then get results. So we should really encourage them more.
Can you imagine the impact it would have on a business like Dex Technologies to have the entire science group of the SHS system, right, being kitted
for?
Everybody has a science set. So, we've done community development segment conversations where people don't have science lab. And that they have to go to another school to go and do science in another school.
Or some of them even draw
on the board. Meanwhile, there are practical sets that we can use for these things. Simplified sets, practical sets. This is what we're talking about here. Making the country work. Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we're back, there's more conversations, very important ones at that. We're going to be looking at some issues concerning Galamsey.